All done.
G'day guys and welcome to the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. I'm your host Ellis Gelios. I'm here with Chris Adams from the Red Army and we are standing outside our spiritual home, Cooper's Stadium, where of course the big game tomorrow night against Melbourne City will be taking place. We've got a massive amount to get through, Chris, as always in our preview shows. First things first though, before I even get into anything at all, I just want to quickly point out a few things. So firstly, big apology is owed to Con Tsakiris. Mr. Tsakiris from the Red Army was a little bit questioning whether we'd actually end up playing Wellington Phoenix, which most people assumed we were going to be playing. It now has obviously emerged that we're going to be playing against Melbourne City, and Con did tell me, in fairness, to watch out for that. I was fairly definitive in my belief that we'd be playing Wellington Phoenix here tomorrow night. So fair play to Con. He showed me up big time. Big apology to you, mate. You were right in the end, and I should never doubt you. So yeah, I just want to get that one out of the way before we get into the crux of today's issues. The other thing is a employee at the club, Will Cutts, won the Remo Paris Award the other night at the official Adelaide United Awards night, and just want to give him a quick shout out. Massively impressive for a young man to win an award like that at the club's awards night, so good on you, Will. Now Chris, you attended the awards night.
Yep.
Tell us what it was like, what went down. Obviously the main highlight was that Isaias won his 4th club champion award, Aurelia Vidmar Club Champion Award, which is unprecedented. But what about the night in general as a fan? Because it's not like an event that all fans go to, so give us the inside word about how it was.
As a fan, it's always a very fun event, having chats to players, coaches, people who work at the club. Just a very fun night overall, and congratulations to all the award winners. We saw Goodwin notch up the Goal of the Season and Golden Boot Award for 15 goals overall and 10 in the league. Armiento and Luis Diagio, I think, won joint the Youth Player of the Season award. And yeah, very good night in general.
Beautiful, mate. Well, it's great to hear that. We're going to jump straight into the preview. So, coming in for Adelaide United, Nathan Constantopoulos is promoted, as well as Carlo Armiento. No outs, and Ken Ilso is the only unavailable as a result of his pending drugs suspension because of that breach, obviously. For Melbourne City, lots of squad. I'll just wait for this plane to go, sorry. We're in that kind of industrial area where the planes always go by if you're watching from outside of Adelaide, obviously. So, Melbourne City, massive amount of squad changes for them. In comes Mark Birighitti, who returns from injury, who we know all about, as well as Richie Delat, Harrison Delbridge, Eugene Galekovic, who we're going to talk a lot more about later on in the preview, as well as Curtis Good and Florent Berenguer, and Jamie McLaren as well comes back in for Melbourne City, because they obviously did field quite a young, inexperienced side last time out against the Mariners, which we'll get into talking about as well a little bit later. Out for them, Connor Metcalf, Majak Mawith, Mitchell Graham, James Delianov and Idris Abdullahi. Unavailable is Moody Najjar. Quick facts and stacks to break everything down, guys. So the Reds have not beaten City in their previous 7 attempts, with their last win occurring in January 2017 following a 2-1 victory, if you recall that one.
Yeah,
Mark Ochieng scored the winner real late on, and I remember seeing him out at Croquet Club a few months later, and I asked him about the goal, and I said, look, like, can we be honest, Mark, did you mean to? And he goes, nah, it came off my shin. So, yeah, I'll never forget that moment, though. That was the last time we beat City. So, yeah, pretty alarming that we haven't beaten them since early 2017. However, in the pairs' only previous encounter in the final series, Adelaide marched to an emphatic 4-1 victory all the way back in 2016. How could we forget that day? What an awesome night that was to get ourselves into the grand final. United are also currently enjoying a 5-match undefeated streak and will be looking for a 3rd straight triumph in the league since May 2016. Adelaide have beaten City 11 times overall. City have beaten us 10 times. There's been 8 draws. We've both scored 43 goals against each other as a head-to-head stat. Chris, we'll get straight into it, mate. The key components. So, City coming off giving the Mariners a hiding with their kids in the previous round, while the majority of their fans seem to think coming here to play us suits them better than playing Victory in their own backyard, which personally I find very, very interesting. Is there a renewed confidence at City, and how worried should we be overall as Adelaide fans?
You can't deny the stats in terms of both Melbourne City and Adelaide United. We haven't beaten them since obviously the famous 2-1 victory where Ochieng scored the winner, and City have got a very decent squad and their past few results have been quite favourable. I don't think anybody really expected them to win 5-0 with a bunch of. It was a very youthful side. And,
sure was.
A lot of their first team regulars didn't play, and getting a 5-0 result against Mariners, who have had a bit of a form increase, I'd say, since Alan Sturridge came.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't say a big.
I think they won one game. To be
they
honest.
did.
Yeah.
The week before, they definitely beat Western Sydney Wanderers, which is, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but that's a very good result for them. And I think that they should. I have a right to be excited, but coming here thinking that it's more advantageous than playing Melbourne Victory in their hometown is perhaps a little bit of a stretch, to be honest. Obviously we've had a horrible run. Marco Kurtz has never defeated Melbourne City. We've only actually beaten them under Kurtz once, and that was in a friendly game. So we haven't played them in the FFA Cup, so that rules that out. But A-League, our form against them has been quite horrendous.
Yeah.
We've had definitely 2 draws and 1 home loss this season. Last season we had 2 losses. One was at home and one was 5-0 away. And so
that was a stinker, wasn't it? That away one.
The form in terms of previous occasions is definitely favouring them, but I can only hope that in the finals form almost goes out the window.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. Very valid.
Past games really does go out the window, and we saw with Melbourne Victory coming and winning the championship from 4th last season. We're in the exact same situation as Victory were last season, so we have the home ground advantage, and anything can happen in the finals.
Now, Chris, I just want to update the viewers. Right behind us at the moment, work is being done on maintaining the pitch. It looks absolutely delicious.
Fantastic.
I haven't, since they started doing all the concerts on the turf, I haven't seen it look this good.
No.
Ever.
No.
So that's one thing that we can really look forward to tomorrow night. Trust us, the pitch behind us right now is looking absolutely mint,
phenomenal,
like it always should.
Yep.
So that's fantastic, and we really like seeing that, obviously, because if there's one thing about Cooper Stadium that everyone across the entire league always comments on, it's the fact that it's clearly the only purpose-built ground, and you get a feel for that as soon as you come here as an away fan. And the pitch is always immaculate because of the fact that there's generally not other codes that have their sport played on here. Yep. Unfortunately, since the entertainment centre took ownership, there's been a few concerts, outdoor concerts, and they've really degraded the state of the pitch quite severely at times. But thank God, luckily, it's looking brilliant.
It's looking fantastic.
Fantastic for tomorrow night. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Now, going off of last week, Chris, Baba Diawara is back, and not only is he back, but he's back amongst the goals. Now, sadly, we know he's not going to be with us next season, but Chris, do we have a reason to believe that we can break down City and be more clinical in the final third tomorrow night, given that not only Bubba, but even the likes of Halloran are now there and gelling again, training together again, and really thriving, it looks like.
Absolutely. Apart from Ken Ilso, obviously we know why he's not making the team sheet, and Jordi Tomasin has not been selected, I believe. Don't quote me on this, but he might have actually been an injury replacement player for Baba Diawara. So now that Baba Diawara's in the squad, Tomasin is completely out of contention. So we have a full force squad, and we have great attacking options going forward. And there is absolutely every reason why we should be able to break down Melbourne City. The last few games, it's been 0-0, 1-1, and 2-0 loss. So haven't been goals heavy like, say, playing Brisbane, for example.
Yeah.
But we have all the players we need, especially Baba Diawara coming back into the side. Definitely, there should be no reason why we can't at least test their goalkeeper. We should be scoring.
Yeah. Can you... well, I guess we should make it clear that when we played them prior to the 0-0 away, we should have won that game, the 1-0 win. That was an Izzo error that led to us Unfortunately, drawing 1-1, but it shows that we can break them down. We have scored against them so far this season, so there's that to go off regarding whether we can get the better of Bart Schenkerveld tomorrow night, who's been an absolute standout this season. Moving right along, Chris, there's and this is really interesting, this point here that I want to make. It's quite relevant to what's going on. So there's intensifying rumours that Scott Galloway is going to exit Adelaide United at the end of the season to sign with Melbourne City. I've heard information that he wants 3 times the amount that he's currently on. Apparently, at the moment, he's earning between 60 and 80,000 at Adelaide United. So that's very much, just elevated off of sort of a youth team prospect getting a senior contract for the first time. It's not a whole lot of money. So apparently he wants 3 times the amount. I don't know if that's true or not, just what I've heard. Is he worth it? What do you guys think? Should he be asking for that much more of a pay rise after the season he's had? Personally, don't know about you, Chris, but I think he's been one of the standout buys for us this season. He's really worked out for Kurz. He's played so many minutes as well. Phenomenal amount of game time all year. And, his attacking work rate really marries up well with his defensive work as well. And I think he's been brilliant. There's obviously a scarce amount of left backs that are competent in this league. So, Chris, I want to ask, first of all, is he worth the pay rise he's asking for, in your opinion? And secondly, what happens if he goes? Do you look at a foreigner, or is there someone else in the A-League that you'd like to pick up at another club right now? Or do you try and convert a right back into the left back spot next season? That's probably a slightly stupid option, you'd think, but I don't know. What do you reckon?
I have been a very big fan of Scott Galloway this season. I think he's developed quite well, and he's actually shown a real development under Kurz compared to last season with Wellington, where I actually thought he was very average. At Wellington Phoenix and Central Coast Mariners again.
Well, they didn't award a contract.
He's such a young player as well. He's only in his early 20s, so he's definitely one for the future. And I'm perhaps not the best educated in terms of A-League wages, but if he's on about 60...
To be fair to you, not many people are, because they're not public, obviously.
If he's on about 60 grand now...
You'd think it's a bit more, but between 60 to 80, apparently.
60 to 80. I think he is worth the investment, to be honest. That might be a big call, but Greg McKellar is saying Galloway's worth 150k at least, and I certainly...
On paper, it sounds... you can't argue with it, can you?
I definitely agree there, because... I actually enjoy Galloway more at the right back role, to be honest.
He's a right footer.
He's definitely a right footer. There have been at times this season when I thought he's shown a lack of chemistry with Goodwin, and I actually argued this comment with somebody who said the latter, and said that Goodwin and Galloway worked very well together, and I thought sometimes they didn't quite bond, and that is probably because of Galloway is right-footed, but Tarek Elrich was right-footed and played left-back in our championship season, so you can't forget that. And I think he's definitely worth the investment. Although, should he not go, and I can definitely say, same with you, Ellis, I've also heard from my sort of sources, so to speak, that Galloway is probably as good as gone at the end of the season. Melbourne City come calling, and they'll probably offer him more than triple the salary that we have him on right now. I've actually enjoyed Ryan Kiddo in left back this season, and
that's an interesting call.
And
certainly that's the unpopular opinion, I would say.
He's not a left back by trade. I was speaking to him last week, and he said he's definitely not a left back by trade, but he's definitely getting the hang of it. And I'd say in the past couple of games, he's actually been understanding the defensive side a little more, and he offers so much more going forward. Being a left-sided attacker by trade, being left-footed, he offers so much more going forward than Scott Galloway. And we saw at the Brisbane game, within 3 minutes, Kiddo's cross was met by the head of Nikola Milasnic, and it was a goal. So I know he's going forward. He goes forward much better than Galloway, but Galloway is better defensively. But I can see if he has proper development, if he has proper training, if he gets a full pre-season in left back, then he could be one going forward as a left back in the future. And I know that Andy Harper of Fox Sports made a comment in saying that Kiddo should be a left back in the future, and I really can't can't disagree there. I thought Kiddo has been fantastic and he's really worked into it. Just like Moroney who's a little more familiar with playing centre back, has very much eased his way into playing centre half position.
We're going to discuss him later on. Yep.
Ryan Kiddo has very much impressed me, and he's shown his versatility in being able to play left back.
Great points made there. I want to propose this to you, and this is a big call.
Yeah.
Do you gamble on wasting a foreign spot on a left back in the hope that we might be able to unearth Casio version 2?
No.
No, not for you. Because just to highlight, we should only be utilising Boland and Michael Jakobsen as the foreign spots going into next season.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of room to experiment there with who the new owners might want to get in from overseas to delegate our 5 foreign spots towards. So what do you guys think about that? Please let us know in the comment section. I want to also elaborate on this whole going from one club to the other, United and Melbourne City. Eugene Galekovic, who means a lot to all of us as United fans. There's rumours circulating that the club has approached him and made him an offer to become the goalkeeper coach next season. Apparently it's a pretty good offer, and it would suit him better to do that on the face of it as opposed to stay on as City's goalkeeper next season. Just gotta wait for this bikie to go past us, Chris. Now, obviously he's had a great year, Eugene Galekovic, but they've got the likes of Mark Birgitti waiting in the wings, as well as young James Delianov. So it would make sense from both ends, you would think, to bring a club legend back. So Chris, I want to ask you, how huge would this be, or huge, if you don't mind the dad joke, from a fan's perspective, for us to get Eugene Galekovic back at our club next season?
Oh, it would be absolutely fantastic. I'm almost excited about the prospect of him coming back. We know that Frankie Juric, current goalkeeper coach, is coming to the end of his contract. I believe he's already signed for West Melbourne.
Really? I haven't heard this. Is this an exclusive that you're giving Purebred Reds?
I may have read or heard something. Don't quote me on it, because I might be wrong. I might be a little confused, but I know it was definitely announced at the season awards night that Frankie Juric would not be continuing on with.
There we go. I haven't seen any announcements on the website, so there's a scoop for us. Our goalkeeper coach won't be at the club next season.
And it's also whether or not it was made well known at the time when Eugene was coming to the end of his playing contract at Adelaide United in 2016-17. The club did not offer him another playing contract, but offered him a goalkeeping contract then.
Yep. So we don't want to really touch on how all that went down, because it wasn't, the most ceremonious exit.
No. But definitely Eugene wanted to play on, and Melbourne City were there for him, and he's been absolutely fantastic.
And he's a Melbourne guy, so we can't fault him for the fact that he left. But he's Adelaide made, isn't it?
Whether or not he calls Adelaide home,
it's technically his home. Let's be honest. Like, when you think of Galekovic, you think of Adelaide. You don't think of Melbourne.
He's Mr. Adelaide United.
Absolutely. Well, I think it would be a no-brainer from the ownership to just do this early and get everyone on board with it, because the buzz that it would create would be phenomenal to get Eugene back, even though we wouldn't be seeing him on the pitch and we'd be seeing him on the sidelines, obviously. I think, one of the greatest goalkeepers really
the league has ever seen.
In Australia for the last 10 years, I'd say. The kind of experience he would give as a coach to the likes of Paul Izzo, Daniel Margush, Isaac Richards would be fantastic. I think this needs to happen. Let's see it happen. Now, going into the game tomorrow night, Chris, in regards to what Kurz does with his starting 11, does Elsie jump straight back in for us, or would that be rough on Michael Moroney, who, in my opinion, hasn't put a foot wrong at centre-back since he was morphed into one by Kurz? What do you reckon?
It's a tough one. It's a real tough one. I believe Elsie will be starting tomorrow night, purely because Kurtz brought him off the bench against Brisbane, and that, to me, it just seems like Kurtz is trying to get some minutes back into him as soon as possible so he can be ready to start. I think it'll be a little tough on Moroney, because he's done quite.
It's been exceptional.
He's done very well.
Absolutely, it's like he's been a centre back his entire career, and this is the first time he's ever been utilised there.
I watched the match replay of the victory game, and Moroney, he doesn't stand any taller than 6 foot. He's about 5'10" or 11. He absolutely bossed Ola Toivonen, who, as we know, is one of the league's tallest players. He won headers over him, physically exceptional, and I believe Elsie will come straight into the lineup, but if I was Kurtz, no, actually, I take that back. If it was down to my own personal decision, I would be starting Maroney next to Jakobsen.
Just because you don't want to upset that chemistry?
No, because he's done so well. He and Jakobsen have really developed a great defensive partnership in the past few weeks. And we did concede 3 goals against Brisbane.
I was about to ask, so is the case to bring Elsie back in the fact that against a fairly poor Brisbane side, we shipped 3 last week?
We shouldn't have shipped 3, and 1 goal at least was due to a massive gap in the midfield.
Yeah.
But 1 was a penalty, and but still, Elsie would be a little better positionally in terms of just the fact that he's a centre back by trade and he's played for years.
Yeah.
But it's really tough, but given I know that the players are very upset and angry that we did score 5 going forward but conceded 3, and against a team that could have results-wise actually won the wooden spoon and finished bottom.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be conceding 3 goals, and that might prompt the defensive reshuffle. So I personally believe we'll see Elsie starting tomorrow night. I'm not sure if the fullbacks will be changed, however. I still think we may see Kiddo in left back.
You don't think he'll go to Kiddo for impact?
I'd say it's likely. I do think Maroney, however, form-wise, should, if it is the case that he doesn't play centre back, I believe he should go to right back.
Yeah. No,
and Galloway back to left back.
Fair point. He shouldn't be losing his place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ryan Strain, on the other hand, who we know is definitely back in the team, should not be starting. He's not ready to start.
He's been out.
He's missed weeks.
I think he's a bit overcooked as well, personally. Like
he's had a hard season. He's done well, but
I mean, you go all the way back to I think the early rounds of last season when Kerrs first brought him in.
Yeah.
Until his absence of late, he's been like a regular and playing 90 minutes every week.
Yeah.
So I think for a young guy that just hasn't been used to that kind of intensity in their entire career, it's probably just best to have him reassessed and then look at him again next year as an option for someone that could be starting week in, week out in that right fullback role.
I can definitely agree with that,
Yeah, for sure. Now, how motivated do you honestly think Melbourne City are going to be, given that they're chasing their first ever championship, especially given that the new Melbourne franchise is entering the league next season? Now, Western Melbourne obviously coming in. We know they've signed about 12 players. No coach announced yet, but obviously the worst kept secret of all time is that it's going to be Mark Rudan. But imagine if they come into the league and do a bit of a Wanderers season 1 and actually go really close to winning the championship.
Yeah.
And then you've got the City Football Group, the biggest owners of football clubs around the world, owning Melbourne City and still no championship to justify their ownership. How embarrassing would that be for Melbourne City? So do you reckon that's going to be a motivating factor for Melbourne City, as well as the fact that, they know that they do well here when they come here? What do you reckon?
They'll be highly motivated to prove Warren Joyce right, because his job has been under a lot of scrutiny. All of the points you just mentioned, that sort of pressure of a new Melbourne team coming into the fray, and yet if they do a wonder as West Melbourne, they're building quite a nice squad. I think they've made quite some nice acquisitions. They haven't filled
it's solid. It's not like completely breathtaking, but it's solid.
At the moment, it's a mid-table side at best. But that's just down to, talking about Western Melbourne, that's just down to how well they utilise their visa spots now. But Melbourne City have, so far, the best they've done is made the semi-finals of the A-League. They've won the FFA Cup, but the FFA Cup is...
2016-15 is the closest they got when we knocked them out right behind me.
So they've gained a little bit of a reputation of almost, dare I say, being the chokers of the A-League.
Bit of a bottling mentality. They did win the FFA Cup in 2016. So that's the one trophy they've got to show for 5 years of investment from the City Football Group.
The FFA Cup, no disrespect to the competition, and
it's
given
still in
we've
its
won it
infancy.
Twice, as we saw, we had an almost easy, I'd say an easy road to the final in playing an understrength Central Coast Mariners side and then 3 National Premier League sides in a row. So it just shows how draw going the right way, you have a path straight to the final. And so when it's up against other A-League sides, other professional sides, and it's not in the pre-season where the early stages of development in squads and tactics-wise, strengthening-wise, fitness-wise, it's where they haven't showed enough. And going back to their closest possible chance of playing in the semi-final in 2015-16 here, they had the best strike force in the league. With Novio didn't play, but they had Fornaroli up forward. They had Aaron Moy as well. Fitzgerald was scoring goals, and they've developed a bit of a bottling mentality, dare I say. And
I have to absolutely 100% agree with that, Chris. It would be a worry for them if Western Melbourne come in with nowhere near as much as investment over the course of time that Melbourne City have been owned by the City Football Group and start overtaking them as a force in the league.
If you don't mind me just saying, with the money that Melbourne City has from the City Football Group, they've invested and they've bought some technically brilliant players, but it just seems sometimes they lack a bit of chemistry. But I could be wrong, and they could go and do a job on us. But they should
touch wood.
Feel,
there's no wood around us, but touch wood that does not happen.
They should definitely at least feel motivated to get something out of it, because last season they dropped. They made the semi-finals again last season.
Yeah.
But they were defeated by SA boy Riley McGree's wonderful scorpion kick, and then they went and bought Riley McGree the season after. But
yeah, just on Riley as well. I was just talking about this before with someone, but his ownership club, the club that owns him, Club Bruges, they don't want to do business with Adelaide United after how things went down. So we've got to wait another 2 years for him to be a free agent for us to go for him again, which is a shame, because you look at the fact that he hasn't played that many games this season for Melbourne City, and he's such a talented player. He's unbelievably good, and so it's just Joyce Ball not playing him. Like, what that guy has in his head, other than rocks, I'll never know. But fair play to him, because he's on the verge of being a bit of a dark horse, perhaps. What do you reckon?
Definitely. If he plays central midfield, absolutely, he'll be amazing. And just for the viewers who are unaware of the situation with Riley McGree, if you don't mind me saying,
I probably will. So just put that one on ice for now, because we want to get through everything else that we need to get through. So now, last time we were here against Melbourne Victory, that amazing win a few weeks back, there was a bit of an issue with Adelaide United's outgoing capo, Glenn Clissold. We were capo-less on what was probably the biggest occasion we'd had here in months. In you stepped, young man. Now, we don't know what's happening with that role next season, who's going to fulfill it. But dare I say, you've thrown your hat in the ring.
Oh, well, look, I'll just talk a little bit about last week. Our fantastic capo, Glenn, who I have just so much respect for. He's the role model of everybody in the Red Army, and I've absolutely loved chanting and him leading for the past few years. He's the role model of the Red Army, and with him not getting let into the stadium, there was a little bit of we were sort of unaware as to what was going on at the time, and we didn't know if some people were going to protest, because there are reserve capos officially, and we were unaware of what was going on, because we were trying to organise a little bit of a protest in the fact that Glenn didn't get let in, and a few people. I stand at the top of Red Army, and so I have a very good view of basically the whole active support bay, and people from either side were trying to start chants, and it wasn't catching on, and nobody was going up to start it, and so I just thought, you know what, I'll just go up and grab the megaphone and try my best. And
had you had a few Diet Cokes in the lead up to this moment, or were you thinking completely straight?
Well, look, I was completely sober, and fair
play then.
It was a little difficult, because I didn't bring my water bottle up, so after about 2 chants, my throat was absolutely killing me. But look, I'm so glad Glenn got let back in, because
he did.
I learned the hard way that Glenn has the hardest job in the world, and in the past 9 years, he's done an absolutely wonderful job. He is, I can definitively say, the league's best capo, and he will be greatly missed.
Yeah, I think it's been well documented how valuable his services have been over a very long period of time now. When he came in to start the role, was he about your age now, 19-ish?
He was, I believe, 17 or 18, so a little younger than me.
I'll rest my case then. We've got our capo sorted going into the future.
For the record, I'd just say that the capo decision is not up to me.
Yeah, of course.
It's down to the Red Army board, and whatever decision they come, I will not be pressing anything. It's down to the decision the board comes, and whatever that decision is, I completely stand by and completely respect. So, Red Army board, up to you.
No worries, Chris. I think you've pretty well given us an idea that a very important decision will be made very soon, and certainly from my end, I hope I see you up there with a megaphone next season, mate. I think that would be massive. But anyway, I just want to ask you, are you worried yourself, or do you think we should all be worried about the fact that tomorrow there's a Crows game on at 4:30 at Adelaide Oval? Now, this kind of really annoys me because it's a no-brainer. Just move this game to tonight is what should have happened.
Yeah.
This should be a Saturday night game. There's nothing on in town tonight. Everyone would be getting out. Everyone's pumped for it, and we wouldn't be directly competing with a cross code and the biggest team in the state for people to be filling the stadium here. So it's disappointing, but nevertheless, do you think that because it's a finals game, we should be worried about the fact that this is going on across town?
It's just bizarre scheduling.
Yeah.
I know last season's elimination final, which was 4th versus 5th in Melbourne, was on a Sunday night, but I just can't believe that there was a Saturday night free. Yeah. No other team, no concerts, nothing that was going on. We had a Saturday night free tonight, and we could have got 14,000 people here.
Instead, we've got tumbleweed blowing around, and then tomorrow night we're going to be competing directly for fans.
It is purely bizarre, especially at 6:30 p.m. Look, personally, I don't mind it from an availability perspective, but I can't stand the fact that we had tonight free, Saturday night free, the best of the weekend where nobody has got no sporting games. Port Power played last night if we're cross-code competing. Yeah. Port Power played last night, Crows play tomorrow afternoon. There's nothing on tonight. There is absolutely no reason why it should be football on a Sunday unless there is something else going on that I don't know about. But common sense should prevail here, and right now Hindmarsh Stadium should be filling up instead of being absolutely empty with groundsmen working on the pitch.
It's a disgrace, but this is just the FFA. This is just what they do. They make decisions that bemuse all of us, and no one knows why they do it, but they do it, Chris, and they continue to do it despite the fact that there's a new board that's been installed there. So anyway, we do have to emphasise to those fans that might not be completely aware, this game tomorrow night, and all finals games are run by the FFA. The club really just have to sit on their hands and go with whatever decision FFA makes. So yeah, got to pretty much put that out there that this is not an Adelaide United decision. This is the FFA, trying to just throw us around as though we're the small guy, and we've got to listen to them, even though we're fronting costs to obviously host the game here, but they're making most of the return on tickets and they're making all the big decisions, which just doesn't seem to make sense. But Chris, it is what it is. Now we're going to wrap up our key player versus theirs, and your final prediction, please.
I'm going to go with a 1-0 win or 2-1 win to us. I think our key player is Craig Goodwin.
Yep.
He's hit form in the past few weeks, and that almost goes back on what I'm saying in the past.
He's believing in himself again.
He's believing in himself again, but I believe that Ryan Kiddo on the left side, having an attack-minded player, and Ryan Kiddo and Craig Goodwin have really developed a good bond, a good chemistry between them, and they work together so well. And we've seen the best of Craig Goodwin in these past few games. There were a couple of people saying that he didn't have a good game against Melbourne Victory a couple of weeks ago. But I think that's just the small group of Goodwin haters.
I don't know what it is.
I don't agree.
People get on his back.
Just because Craig Goodwin is not scoring goals, that does not mean he's having a bad game. Yeah. He is our top goal scorer. He has scored 15 goals this season and had a hand in 9 goals in terms of assists, and that's just in the A-League. I'm not sure about the FFA Cup. Yeah. And those are phenomenal stats. Bruce scored 11 goals in the 2015-16 AD season. We were saying that Bruce is unbelievable. Craig has just been fantastic this season. Just because he's not scoring goals, he's always present. He got 2 assists against Wellington, and he had a dry patch where he wasn't scoring goals, but he's still doing his job as a left winger. Left wingers are more there to assist and score goals. Yeah. So it is just totally unfair in people saying that Craig Goodwin should be our best goal scorer. He's done He's done a fantastic job, but you can't be relying on Craig to be scoring goals every week. That's what a striker is for. That's what a finisher is for. And now we have 3 of them in the squad in Stamatolopoulos, Goodwin, Baba Diawara and Blackwood.
Yeah.
And so they should be the ones finishing. And Blackwood scored. He scored against Victory. Baba Diawara scored. Stamatolopoulos scored 2 against Wellington Phoenix. So the strikers are now finding their feet a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is the game where we need the attack to come together. We need everybody to bond together, and I think it'll happen. But Melbourne City's key player for me is Bart Schenkerveld.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a little bizarre that Eugene won their best player of the season over Schenkerveld.
Is there something to do there with the fact that he's possibly signed on with Sydney already for next season? Heavily rumoured that they offered him a much bigger amount of money than City for a contract extension. So, what do you reckon?
I'd say that Sydney and Joop van der Linden this season, it's been a bit of... I think they brought in Joop van der Linden trying to replace Jordi Bruce, who was quite a fantastic centre-back last season. It just has not worked.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, congratulations to Eugene. As a fan of Eugene, I still love the man, even though he plays for Melbourne City. I will never not love Eugene. Congratulations to him.
Could I just put on the record as well that he always has a freaking blinder against us. It just aggravates me. Like whenever Galekovic plays against us for Melbourne City, he absolutely rises to the occasion. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, I was at the most recent City away game where we drew 0-0, and we were in the active away bay. We were just shocked at what we were seeing. It was just vintage Eugene.
Yeah.
Quite phenomenal. His save against Craig Goodwin's free kick at the end. We had sort of like an unobstructed view right down the end of the stadium, and just seeing Eugene get his arm to it, we just head in hands, unbelievable. So
yeah, and just props to you for travelling on that trip as well. It wasn't a huge turnout from a fan's perspective, so you, the Reid family, and whoever else went along with you guys.
Yep.
Big well done for publicising your travel there, putting it all across the socials, and really providing that presence from an Adelaide United away fan perspective, because
always great fun.
It's a pretty dead atmosphere there from what I'm told, from what you told me off camera.
Yeah.
So the fact that we got a lot of people there for that trip recently at City, massive props to everyone that went.
We had a wonderful moment at the very end where a fan of Melbourne City, a lovely lady, came up to us, and we were doing our best, especially in the first half, to actually chant and get the whole bay going.
Yeah.
And we were chanting quite a bit, and we had a lovely Melbourne City fan come up to us and just thank us for trying to create an atmosphere, which I, as a fan, I've been to a few away games and I've never ever had that happen to me before. And she had a little dig at Perth Glory's active support fans, the last home game, who apparently made absolutely no effort to chant. And so that was a really wonderful moment, and really it makes chanting and in a away bays really worth it.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to give a quick shout out to some of the people that are commenting. George Ragius has had plenty to say as always. His last comment is welcome to the AFL and Australian sports thinking. That's in response to the fact that obviously FFA a no-brainer to move the game to tonight instead of tomorrow night, and they haven't done it. So why that is, we'll never know. Good on you though. Matt Reid says, hey, it's that Chris guy from the Strathalbyn Strikers game this afternoon. Quality photographer, shit banter though. There you go. Rightio. Matt Reid getting stuck in. Beck Moore says, is that AUFC Chris from Twitter? I'm with him. Yeah, I can confirm touching distance. This is the man. So there you go, Beck. There's no question about who I'm standing next to. Corey Barber says, Jacobson was on a yellow. That's why he was subbed. Yep, no, thanks for reinforcing that point. Sorry about context here, by the way, guys. Greg McKellar says, huge, working on Izzo's distribution would be massive. That's a great point,
Yeah,
actually.
that's a fantastic point, actually.
Just to give Greg McKellar a bit of a shout out there. It's his weak point, he says, and he can absolutely be coached out. And Eugene is brilliant at this, and he is.
Yeah,
to be fair, Eugene's distribution is up there with the best.
I'd say the best in the league in terms of distribution, and he really unlocked that with Gombau as coach.
For sure. And we're getting very Eugene-centric, and right now he's still on the enemy side. So we're going to wrap, guys. Now, Chris, why don't you tell us, is there going to be a march tomorrow night? What's the Red Army's plans?
I'm not sure about a march. Definitely make sure you're at the Brompton. It's just around the corner, short walk from the stadium for pre-game. Drinks, fantastic food, great service. Get to the Brompton beforehand and join the Red Army at the pub. I'm not sure if there'll be a march, but keep an eye out on social media. Look up Red Army AUFC on Facebook, go into the Red Army AUFC forum, and keep an eye out there for any march details. But definitely the Brompton for a few hours before. Make sure you're there. The atmosphere will be fantastic, and we look forward to seeing you.
Chris, are you going to give us a fan cam in our last ever fan cam segment at Cooper Stadium for this season?
I'll do my best to come across. I'll do my best.
I'm sure you will, mate. Thank you so much for joining in with me in this live video, Chris. One of the up-and-comers in terms of a frontman for the Red Army, and there's no question that there's plenty to look forward to involving yourself, Chris, with everything that happens from an active supporter point of view. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Sorry I didn't read out all the comments. We had a lot to get through tonight, but always please comment on the videos. They'll be addressed. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Make sure, if you haven't got a ticket yet, that you get online and grab one. Don't rely on getting a walk-in, because you never know what that last-minute momentum will be like when all the hype gets spread across town, and then suddenly that extra 1,000 or 2,000 people who didn't plan to be here tomorrow night rock up at the last second. There might be some issues there. Make sure, if you are planning to come here tomorrow night, that you get your ticket. There aren't that many left. I believe they've sold out all active support tickets from what I saw.
I'm not sure, maybe.
Yeah,
You could be correct.
I saw that on a forum. But yeah, guys, we can't wait for the game tomorrow night. It's going to be massive. If we win, it's Perth Glory away, and then who knows? Could we go on and do a bit of a Steve Bradbury?
You never know.
I think we could. I really do think we could.
I have a very good feeling about this squad at the moment. I'm feeling good.
Well, we're about to hop over to the Joiners across the road and have a beer, where we hope to be tomorrow night with plenty of smiling faces around us after Adelaide United hopefully beat Melbourne City. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been the Purebred Reds. I've been your host, Ellis Gelios. This is Chris Adams, and we'll see you guys. No worries, mate. Thanks for being here. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow night, guys. All the best. Have a great Saturday.
Come on, you Reds.